This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Yes. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Teres Hashem Be'ezras Hashem Yisbach. As always, we begin with Shus Asher Rav Landau, with continued appreciation to all of you for coming and making this share possible. We'd like to learn tonight, especially L'Refuah Shalema for Chana Rivka Bas Malka, who's having surgery this Thursday. We learn in her schus, the wife of one of our regular attendees, that she should have a successful surgery, and from Hashem L'Refuah Shalema B'Sar Shecher Yisrael. We learn with the tefillah, all those that have been touched by the dreaded machla, nausea, machla, other related diseases should have a refuah shalema b'sar shecher Yisrael. All of us and our loved ones should always be healthy. We learn with the tefillah that all those that are looking for their shidduch should find their shidduch quickly and easily. All those that are waiting children should be blessed with zarachaya v'kayama, healthy mommy, healthy baby. We should all have a good parnasa, berevach u'bekavan, and enjoy lange gesund zisa shalom bayis. Amen. Ela Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. These are the offspring of Yitzchak ben Avram. Avram hoylid es Yitzchak. So, of course, the rhetorical statement Yitzchak ben Avram, Avram hoylid es Yitzchak, is discussed by everybody. Why does it say? If it's Yitzchak ben Avram, obviously Avram hoylid es Yitzchak. Rashi tells us that the Litzanei Hadar claimed that Avimelech nisaber saw when she was abducted, and therefore Hashem made a nes nigla and changed the appearance of Yitzchak to look like Avram, so that everybody knew Avram holid es Yitzchak. While we'll talk about that later, I want to move on to other explanations of why it says Avram holid es Yitzchak. The Chidah quotes the famous drasha Yaakov asher poda es Avram, Yaakov who redeemed Avram. So the Chidah says that when it says in the pasuk Yaakov asher poda es Avram, malamed she Yaakov poda es Avram ur kazdim. Avram Avinu came out of the Kivshin Ha'esh b'schus Yaakov Avinu, which means that it was b'schus the Torah of Yaakov Avinu that Avram Avinu was redeemed from the Kivshin Ha'esh. So the Chidah says that's Pshat, Eile Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. These are the children. Now Toldos is written with a missing vav. The second vav of Toldos is missing. It's defective. It's chaser. Because there's only one of the two. That's the Iker one, and that's Yaakov. There were two children, Yaakov and Esav, but one of the vavs is missing because we zoom in on Yaakov. Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram, that's Yaakov, which allowed that Avram hoylid es Yitzchak. Because if it wouldn't be for the birth of Yaakov, then Avram would not have been able to give birth to Yitzchak because he would have died in the Kivshin Ha'esh. Now, this, I believe, has a tremendous contemporary value because we're saying that when Avram faced the furnace, it was the schus of a descendant that would dedicate his life, Yom and V'layla, to Torah, that saved Avram, the Zayda, from the Kivshin Ha'esh. We see the same thing today. Who knows how many of our ancestors were saved from the fires of the crematoria because their descendants, their grandchildren, their Einiklach and their Einiklach and their children are learning Yom and V'layla in yeshiva. It's mamish the same exact thing. Same exact thing. We say Yaakov asher poda es Avram. The Yaakov in learning in Shem Ve'ever 14 14 years without sleeping. Yaakov's Ish Tom Yoshevay Halim, the Matovu Alecha Yaakov and Toivel L'Torah Shenema Kilekach Toiv Nosati Lachem. That was Podas Avram from the crematory of Nimrod. And so we see Ma'isa of a similar Labanim. It's the descendants of these people who are Ud Mutzel Me'esh. These are descendants who learned Torah in yeshiva that were the reason for saving their parents from the crematoria. It's an amazing thing. I think about my father, who crossed Mengele 3 times, Yamach Shemoi V'Zichrei, and he was saved. Mamish and Ud Mutzel Me'esh. How many people in the Seilisha, second Seilisha transport didn't live through that day? And then how many people in the first selection died, and the second selection died, and the third selection died? And then how many people died in the tunnel when they were jammed in the tunnel overnight? And then how many people died in the death march? But my father had many descendants that would learn in Torah day and night. In yeshivas day and night. So that's Yaakov Asher Podas Avram. So again, the Chidah says that's Pshat Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram, Avram Oilas Yitzchak. The Toldos of Yitzchak ben Avram with Chaser Vav, that's Yaakov. That ensured that Avram Oilas Yitzchak, that he was around to have Yitzchak. The Balaturim, on the Pasuk of Lo Yavai P'tzua Dako Krush Shavcha, says that the Samach light next to the Pasuk of P'tzua Daka, who cannot have children, who cannot be moiled, it says, Lo Yavai Mamzer, B'Kal Hashem. So he says, what's the juxtaposition of those 2 verses? Loimer Sham Mamzer Eina Moiled. That a Mamzer can't have children. No, a product of adultery cannot have children. That's why it says, Lo Yavai Mamzer next to Lo Yavai P'tzua Daka. Just like a P'tzua Daka can't have children, a Mamzer can't have children. So the Chidah asks right away, but we know the Alufei Chayri, the Alufei Esav, Anna, the Gemara says they had children, they were Mamzerim. So the Chidah says this rule that the Balaturim says is only by a Mamzer Yid. A Mamzer Goy can have children, but a Mamzer Yid can't be mold. So again, that's Pshat, using this Balaturim, Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. These are the children of Yitzchak ben Avram. Now, according to the Leitzani Adar, that Mavi Melech Nusabra Sarah, then he would Chatz V'Shalom be a Mamzer. A Mamzer can't be Meilin. Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. Since Yitzchak had children, that's a riot that Avram Eilen as Yitzchak. It wasn't Mavi Melech that was Eilen as Yitzchak. It was Avram Eilen as Yitzchak. The Maram ben Choviv says something else, also very fascinating. The Maram ben Choviv says halachically, if a person has a son and he's an okar, then the father is not Mekayim Peri V'Riv. If you have a child that's barren, you're not Mekayim Peri V'Riv. The Mela says the Maram ben Choviv, Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. When Yitzchak had children, now is the full kiyum of Avram Hoyledes Yitzchak. Now there's the kiyum of Peri V'Rivia. Until they were Toldos of Yitzchak ben Avram, there wasn't a full kiyum of Peri V'Rivia. That's how the Maram ben Choviv learns. And I believe that's pshat in the pasuk, Urei vonim levanecha shalom al Yisrael. When we see children to our children, then there's Shalom Al Yisrael. Until then, the mitzvah of Peri V'Rivia has not been fully fulfilled. I mean, we tried to do Peri V'Rivia, but it's not fully fulfilled. And that's Pshat B'nai Bonim Ariyin Kabonim. Because when you have B'nai Bonim, that's the completion of the Bonim. Right? Until then, there isn't a full fulfillment of Peri V'Rivia. So that's Pshat. Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram, says the Maram ben Choviv, when Yitzchak had children, then that's the full fulfillment of Avram Hoyledes Yitzchak. Now I want to rewind the tape now. Let's go back to what Rashi says, the classical interpretation that Eila Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. And once we mention Yitzchak, we say that Avram holded as Yitzchak. A great miracle happened to Yitzchak because the Litzanei Ador said, "May Avimelech nesabra Sarah." Mamela Hashem made an open miracle, and after the Litzanei Ador said it, it can't be before, because if it was before, the Litzanei Ador wouldn't have said it. After the Litzanei Ador, Hashem rearranged the facial features of Yitzchak to look like Abraham. That's such an open miracle, an astonishing miracle. Why did the Rebbeinu Shalom make such an astonishing miracle? To disprove the late son. Now that needs study. That Litzanis over here was such a foolish Litzanis. It was hardly credible. Because what would be the reason to say Me'avimelech Nesabasar? You'll say, look, Avram Avinu, he couldn't have children all these years. All of a sudden, after Sarah is abducted by Avimelech. But Sarah Imenu was 90 years old. Anyway, a huge, unheard of miracle had to happen that she would have a child. Why would the Rebbeinu Shalom make it a miracle for an abductor? Particularly when Hashem went ahead and when Avimelech abducted Sarah Imenu, he caused that all the people in Avimelech's palace could not have children. And it was only after Avram Avinu was mispalel that they started having children again. So, and you should say, but Avimelech was merited that he abducted her, and he, even though his whole palace couldn't have, but he caused Sarah to miraculously have a child. It's preposterous. The suggestion is the preposterous. And because it is such a preposterous suggestion that no logical thinking person could believe, Hashem makes an open miracle. If Hashem had to make open miracles for what Kook said, he would have to make open miracles every day. So what's happens over here, he makes an open miracle. So the Griz says, Rav Soloveitchik, Zech Tzadik Kodesh Baruch Schusi Yogan Alein, the Griz says that Litzonis has the power to take away the hispilus of an ace. Don't be so impressed. We don't even know if it was from Abraham. That's all. It just, the Litzanis makes a way that people shouldn't be impressed. The koyach of Litzanis is so great that it says in Chetzal, Litzanis achas doicha meya teichachas. I have to explain to you what meya teichachas means. That means that you went to 100 shmuzim. Meya chess, 100 chess, you went to 100 shiurim. And somebody comes out, did he talk about it? I heard him talk about it last time. That's all. One litzanos, one cynical comment. One cynical comment wipes away 100 shiurim. It's a terrible thing. And that's why we see from here that Hashem makes open miracles. We see from here that we have to do what we can to remove litzanos. Now, sometimes you can't remove litzanos. You know, I told you, late stands for Lamed and Tzaddik. He thinks he's learned and he thinks he's a Tzaddik. Now, somebody that thinks he's learned and a Tzaddik, you can't quiet him. But you have to keep your family away from such people. You have to keep your children away from... Remember, it's a pasuk in the beginning of Tehillim. Fortunate is the person of a Moshev Leitzim Lo Yasha. You have to understand, I said this many times. Nobody said that a Leitz is not fun. There are a lot of witty Leitzim. They're a lot of fun to be with. They're fun. They're clever. And therefore we're warned. Don't be lured with the lights. Your ruchnius is going to suffer. Listen to the Ramchal. Ramesh Chaim Lutzat in the 5th parak of Mesilas Yesharim. Remember, the Gaon says until Prate Nikias, there isn't one word extra in the Mesilas Yesharim. Listen to what Ramesh Chaim Luzzatto writes. This is a verbatim. Ki beletzanes echad, with one mockery, ubeschoik cotton, and one bit of levity, yapil ha'adam, a person will fall, me'aliyah, riboy gadol. He'll lose a tremendous amount from his level, minayis iris v'esparos. Yapel ha'adam riboy gadol, not me'alav. Yapel ha'adam, or maybe me'alav, riboy gadol minayis iris v'esparos. One little litzanis will take away a lot what a person has strived to accomplish in his ruchnius. It's a very dangerous thing. I'm going to share with you now a big kiddush. I've always wondered about the name Rivka. I told you that the name Rivka was the same letters as Kirba inside of her, because it's from what went on inside of her that Vayitzroi Titzu Abanim B'Kirba, and she saw that one of the children was going and running to a church, to Batei Avodah Zarah, that she got the true understanding of who Esav was. It wasn't Yaakov who was running to Avodah Zarah. So what went on inside her gave her the power to see beyond Yitzchak. Yitzchak Ayevas, Yaakov, Yitzchak Ayevas, Yitzchak is Esav. But she saw beyond that because of what went on inside her. But I want to tell you another pshat. There's a famous kasha, which I found also in the Chidah, but it's asked by many people. Why didn't Rivka change her name? Right? Sarai couldn't have a child, but Sarah could. And so we know Yitzchak didn't change his name because it was given by the Rebbeinu Shalom. A name given by the Rebbeinu Shalom can't be changed. It has a lot of significance. The Yud is the Ten Commandments. The Yud is the Ten Nisyonis. The Tzadi is that Sarah was 90. The Ches is that 8 days Mila. The Kuf is Abraham was 100. And there's a lot of significance. But Yitzchak was given by Hashem, so it couldn't be changed. But Rivka could have been changed. Why didn't she change her name? So it's interesting that the Chidah says, it says that Yitzchak prayed l'noichach ishtai, and it says vatar Rivka ishtai. So he says the word Rivka is extra. It should have said vatar ishtai. Just, we know it's talking about Rivka. So he has a whole cheshbon. This Chidah. He has a whole cheshbon. He says Rivka is Meira Yitzchak, because he says Rivka is 307. Right? Reish is 200. Beis is 202. Kuf is 302. And 5 is 307. So he says that's Yitzchak in Makaila, 207 plus Yitzchak is 208. So that's Yitzchak in Makaila plus Kuf is 100. Avram was 100 when he was born. When he was born, so you see from that Rivka was designated Yitzchak. It's a little bit of a chiddush. You have to add the kuf that Avram was 100, then you have to make it with the kail. But that's what he says. I want to say pashut. It says that Yitzchak was mispal l'noichach ishtai, and Chazal tell us that Yitzchak said that kol abonim, all the children that I have, I only want to have mimena. That's l'noichach ishtai. Isn't it fascinating that Rivka is the Oisya, is a rakba? Only her. Rivka is a rakba. Only her. He said, I only want from her. That's why he didn't change the name. Vatar Rivka ishtai rakba, only from her, not from anybody else. And then I wanted to add something else. We know that she had 2 children, a tzaddik and a rasha, a Yaakov and an Esav. The Yaakov came from both of them. She was a tzedekis. It's very possible, we'll talk later on, it's very possible that her mother was a tzedekah. So Shaila, Machlok is what the mother's name was. The Sefer HaYosher says that, I'm sorry, I'm confusing things now. Strike that. But Rivka was a tzedekah. Rivka's mother was Devorah, who was probably also, as Shari Aaron says, was Devorah. She was also probably a tzedekah, but we won't go into that now. But Yitzchak and Rivka had Yaakov. That's Vatar. Vatar says the Paneach Rosa is Torah. Vatar is Isaiah Torah. Right? Vav, Tav, Hey, Reish, that's Torah. So conception, which came from both the father and the mother, that's Yaakov. Rivka is a Reikba. There's an empty one in there. That's Reikba. Right? Rekodim Shebachem. Reik, empty. Reikba. There's an empty one in her. That's Esau. It's the empty one. Now it says, "Vayivan sham mizbeach, vayikra b'shem Hashem." After he had the successful event in Rehovos, where they finally built wells and the Philistines finally left him alone. So Hashem appeared to him, and he built a mizbeach. The Meshech HaChochma says to be mefarsim the goodness of Hashem. It's an Indian when Hashem does something, especially miraculous. There's an Indian to be mefarsim it. So the Piryoy Mosek writes that somebody experienced an ace, a miracle. And he went to Reb Chaim Kanievsky and he asked him if he should be mefarsim the miracle or if he should worry about an ayin hara. Now there's a tzad to worry about an ayin hara. He doesn't write this, but it's tzad to worry about an ayin hara. I told you that when Chananya, Mishael, and Azariah came out of the Kivshan Eish, they were never heard of again. And one opinion is because of ayin hara. Never heard of again because everybody was so incredulous about what happened to them. Everybody around the Kivshan was burnt to a crisp, and they went inside and nothing happened. Not a hair was singed. Their clothing wasn't smelling from smoke. People were so incredulous they got an ayin hara, and you never heard from them again. So this person asked Reb Chaim, maybe he shouldn't mention the miracle because maybe he'll get an ayin hara. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky told him, you're mechuyev to be mefarsim the miracle, to give Haidah to Hashem, and also to make a Kiddush Hashem. He says, what's the raya? The raya is from the Korban Toida. By the Korban Toida it says, it's interesting, the Korban Toida is a type of shlomim. Now shlomim could be eaten for 2 days and 1 night. But a Korban Toida is an exception, it could only be eaten the moment it's brought until the next morning. Why? It's brought down because since its purpose is to give thanks, since it has a limited time to be eaten, and you don't want anything to come to noiser, which is disqualification, it's an Issa Chorus if somebody eats it, and you don't want to bring kachim l'noiser, and you have 40 loaves that come with the Korban Toida that have to be eaten, so you have to invite a huge crowd to partake. And that's what Hashem wants, that you should invite a huge crowd and tell Hashem about what you're tell the people what you're thankful with. And he says that's the pasuk in Tillim. In Tillim it says, it's a famous pasuk in Tillim, that Vayizbechu zivchei Toida, you'll slaughter zivchei Torah, and you'll relate my deeds in sweet song. How you were saved from the ocean, how you got out of jail. That's the purpose of a Toida. And Reb Chaim Kanievsky told him, here too, you have to say over the miracle and let people know what Hashem did for you. I remember, because I'd like to add a caveat, that this is probably only true if the person does it in order to thank Hashem. If he does it to become a media sensation, then it's very likely then he could get an ayin hara. I remember many years ago, there was a Beis Yaakov girl that was lost in the woods for quite a few days. Went to the same yeshiva as my girls. And then after quite a few days, and a manhunt of over 1,000 people, she was found all right. She was found davening mincha. Right? It was a huge Kiddush Hashem. What we don't know is that the Goyim wanted to make out of this young yeshiva girl a media sensation. They wanted to have her on all the talk shows, right? And they could have made a lot of money, the family. And they put her on the circuit, put her on the cover of magazines, right? A girl, a great story that the Shabbos before they talked about what would they do if they were lost in the forest, right? It could have been a media sensation. And I remember then watching that the father, an Erlich Yid, did not allow her to go on any of these things. However, he did want to thank Klal Yisrael, the Shomrim, and all the people that went out and looked for her. And he wanted to be Mefarsim the Chesed Kale. So he came to the Aguda dinner that year, which was shortly after, and at the Aguda dinner he said thank you to Klal Yisrael and thank you to Hashem. So here you have the tightrope, right? The Shaila to Reb Chaim Kanievsky was, are you worried about an ayin hara? And he said, no, you have a chiyuv, like we see from the Carbon Taida, to thank Hashem. But it has to be thanking Hashem. It can't be to become a media sensation. Now the Pirya Masik brings down another incident that happened with Reb Chaim Kanievsky Paskin, that the recipient of the miracle had to be Mefarsim. It's a remarkable story, and it shows how it's a good example of how the Rabbeinu Shalom is Zeicher Kol HaNishkachos, and the seeds that we sow with good deeds come back to pay people later on, sometimes much later on, but nothing is forgotten. He relates that there was a Chacham Echad in Eretz Yisrael that got the terrible news that he had a growth on his large intestines. It was a serious growth where the doctors, there were 3 doctors involved, where the consensus is they're going to have to go into surgery and they're going to probably have to cut out a lot. He will never be able to go to the bathroom normally anymore, but only through the side of the body with tremendous suffering. And it might be a shaila of him being able to learn, and the Gadol was besides himself, the Chacham was besides himself. But what could he do? They told him they asked to have the surgery, he can't live without the surgery. No, what could he do? He's mispal. The night before the surgery, he gets a dream. And an old Yid comes to him. It's a true story. An old Yid, Adam Yoshish, an old Yid comes to him in the dream, and he tells him this lashon: Ato hitzalta es hama'ayim shali, you saved my stomach. V'gam ani hishtadalti lahatzala shelcha, I'm also going to attempt to save yours. He gets up from the dream. This is the morning of the surgery. And he's racking his brains. Who's the person? And he finally remembers 40 years ago. Get fasten your seatbelts. 40 years ago, he used to visit a nursing home every Erev Shabbos. And there was a patient in a nursing home that he would come Erev Shabbos and he would be groaning and wailing. And he asked him, why are you groaning? He said, I haven't gone to the bathroom in a week. So he went over to the nurse and said, what's going on? So she said, look, this problem we don't take care of at a nursing home. It only could be taken care of in the hospital. So he said, send him to the hospital. You go to the bathroom. He said, by the hospital, their insurance doesn't cover it. And the family doesn't want to pay the money. He doesn't have the money. So he asked, how much does it cost? It cost 300 lirot. At the time he was learning in Kailul, and the whole salary he brought home was 500 lirot a week. But he decided a Yid is in pain, suffering like this, an old man. He told him to take him to the hospital, and he paid the 300 liras. When he got back, he called the family. Not only did they not thank him, but they said, "Chutzpah, who are you to do this?" He says he visited, and this happened 3 or 4 times. And each time he paid for it himself. Finally, he said, after the 3rd or 4th time, the family got involved, and they reimbursed him, and they started taking care of him. This man came to him 40 years later in a dream and said, "You saved my stomach, I'm going to try to save yours." The next day, that morning, he went into the surgery, and they didn't have to remove anything but the growth, and his bowels and everything remained normal. The doctors afterwards said to him, "Look, you got some kind of connections, because this was an open miracle. There's no way, from what we saw on the MRIs and the CAT scans, there's no way this was. This was an open miracle." So the man went to Reb Chaim Kanievsky and he told him the story. Reb Chaim Kanievsky told him, "You have a chiyuv to tell people this." He says he's worried, Ayin Hara. Reb Chaim Kanievsky told him, and he quoted the pasuk, "Yoidu LaHashem chastoi." Actually, might have quoted this to the other person. There's a pasuk. I think he quoted it to the other person, but he says, "V'yoidu LaHashem chastoi v'nifla'osav l'vnei adam." Remarkable thing. So a person has something good happen, he has to give Eidah. He doesn't want to, and I told you many times that when it's for a mitzvah, the Peliyah, it says, "Mitzvah Hashem bara me'iras einayim." Now I'm going to share with you another name shot. You'll excuse me. I find this extremely fascinating. It's a detail about the Seder Shel Pesach that I didn't know, which of course none of you are impressed by that, because you know I don't know a lot of things. But it also answers a shaila that one of my married sons asked me this past year by the Seder. He asked me an interesting question. I gave him an answer, but now we'll see. I think we even talked about it, but now I have a better answer. Kum leich paden aram beisa besuel avi imecha v'kach lech misham isha mibnois Lavan achei imecha. Lavan's wife. Most people don't know the name of Lavan's wife. I know, Mrs. Lavan, I know. This isn't even asked in extra credit. They'll ask for Lot's wife. They'll ask you Abraham Avinu's mother. They'll ask you the name of Eishes Potiphar. Nobody's going to ask you Lavan's wife. The Sefer HaYosher says Lavan's wife was Adina. Me'amloyer says Lavan's wife was Dina. Adina, she had an Adina Sanefesh. Where do you think Rachel and Leah comes from? Anyway, the Sefer HaYosher says that Lavan's wife was an Akara. She wasn't able to have children. And in the Seder HaDoros it says that Rachel and Leah were born the night Yitzchak gave Yaakov the bracha. It's Seder HaDoros Perek Beis. So that's another Seder event. Because the night that Yitzchak gave Yaakov the brachas was the night of the Seder, right? That's what it says, Shnei Gediyah Yizim. He served them 2 goats, one for the Karban Pesach, one for the Karban Chagiga. The wine that he served them was the Arba Kaises, right? That was the night of the Seder. Pa'achicha b'mirma, we said b'mirma is b'gematria Afikoyim, that's why we steal the Afikoyim, because Yaakov stole the brachas. That's why it's a big Indian to give blessing to the children at the Seder. Oh, so now we see a new thing at the Seder. That Rachel and Leah were born the night of the Seder. That's what the Seder HaDoros says. That on the night that Yitzchak gave brachas to Yaakov, Rachel and Leah were born. Oh. You know what the gematria of Rachel and Leah is? Happen to notice this. Rachel and Leah is exactly b'gematria Eila liYitzchak. These are to Yitzchak. That's simple because Leah is Eila, and Rachel is 238. That's Yitzchak is 208. So Rachel is liYitzchak. So Eila liYitzchak, because it was because of Yitzchak's bracha that Adina, the Akara, had children. It was that night. That answers my son's kasha. My son asked me a kasha this year at the Seder. It says, Seyulamad ma bikesh lovan arami lasos liYakov Avinu. Sheparoi loy gozer ala zacharim. The lovan bikesh lakar as a kol. Paro only decreed against the males. But Lavan wanted to uproot everything. When he went against the daughters of when he chased Yaakov, or when they tried in cahoots to poison Eliezer, he wanted to uproot everything. Is that when he accused us of stealing the trophim, so he went to chase them until Hashem said, "Don't touch them." So my son asked the Kash. He says, "Tati, why by the Seder night are we downgrading Paro? Paro wasn't so bad. He only decreed against the males. Lavan wanted to uproot. What, on the night of Pesach, when we're talking about the great miracle of Yetzias Mitzrayim, we're downgrading the nace? We're downgrading the miracle? It's a powerful Kash. Powerful Kash. And is that what you do the night of the Pesach? You downgrade the miracle? Lavan, that's nothing compared to what Lavan wanted. But now it's a Seder-related discussion. Yeah, because on that night, Lavan had the children. And here, what's the big lesson of Mitzrayim? One of the great lessons of Mitzrayim is how they were kafei toiv, how they were ungrateful. Yosef saved the land, and look what Paro did to the people. That's exactly what we're accusing Lavan of now. Lavan, you only had daughters because of this family. Your wife was an Akara. It was only Meberchas Yitzchak that you had daughters. And you want to uproot everything? It's the same kafei toiva, the same story as Mitzrayim. Vayetzer Rishon Admoni, Vayikra Shema Yosef. The first one came out all ruddy, red. Right, that's why he's known as Edom, and they called him Esav. So we know Esav, Rashi says Esav also. He was totally formed. He had hair. The Targum Yonasan ben Azil says he has a beard. And adds the Targum Yonasan ben Azil, and he had shinei v'kochet. And he had teeth and molars. He had his wisdom teeth already. Matter of fact, there's an interesting shaila. There's a sefer called Lev Aryeh. The Lev Aryeh asks a shaila, how is it shaykh that Esav should have teeth? You know why a child doesn't have teeth when he's born? Because it's brought down that the teeth grow from the mother's milk, or from formula which imitates the mother's milk. Right? That's why, where do we know this from? We know this from the Mefarshim on the Pasuk in Vayechi, Uleven Shinayim Echalav. That the teeth come from milk. So that's why babies don't have milk. They don't have milk until they nurse when they come out, or they have formula when they come out. That's why it's so important to give the children the milk that helps the teeth grow. So Ayvazoi asks the Lev Aryeh, how did Esav have teeth before he was born, before he had the milk? So they bring down a Moedik Medrash Avakir. The Medrash Avakir says, why was Esav born red? So it's brought down that he came out red because when he came out, he destroyed his mother's womb. He said, I'm not sharing the Yerusha with anybody else. That's why Rivka never had any more children. She was only 23 at the time. She never had children again. Right? Because he destroyed her. That's another reason why she knew who he really was. Right? While Yaakov showed tremendous sensitivity to her mother and grabbed onto the heel of Esav, says the Torah, in order that he should come out in one shot so his mother shouldn't have to go through another labor and delivery. Esav went ahead and destroyed her womb. So she knew who she was dealing with, this Esav. It's one of the reasons why he was called Edom, and that's one of the reasons why Yaakov was called Yaakov, to show his sensitivity. That's an idea of a base Yaakov girl, such a sensitive girl. But the Medrash Avakir says another reason fascinating reason why Esav was red. It says the Medrash of Akka, when he was in Meyai Imai, he drank his mother's damnidus. Oh, that's why he had teeth. Because Chazal tells us in Masechtas Chulin that dam necha v'nasa chalav, blood congeals and becomes milk. That's why a woman that is nursing doesn't have a menstrual cycle. Because the dam necha v'nasa chalav, the blood congeals and becomes milk. Esav that drank damnidus, that was like milk, and that's why he was able to have teeth. Interesting thing. But anyway, the Balaturim says a famous gematria. The Balaturim says that the gematria of Esav, which famous gematria, 376, is the same gematria as Shalom. Shalom is 376. Well, what's that all about? Esav was not your poster child for Shalom. I mean, Esav was Baal Nara Marasa. He killed people, right? He wasn't your poster child. I mean, Esav, Yudayim, Yudai Esav. Esav is the man who said, Yikr v'yamei Evalavi. Let my father die and I'll kill my brother. Right? You know, he's not the poster child for Shalom. So there are those that learn that if not that Hashem tempered Esav with a name that has the same gematria as Shalom, then he would have destroyed the whole world. And I think that's the way some learn this Balaturim. But the Sefer HaParsha Makima learns it differently. And I think this is closer to the truth in the Pshat in the Balaturim. He says that Esav thought he was Shalom. He thought he was complete. He was born also. He was born made with a beard, hair, teeth, front teeth, back teeth. He thought he was a finished product. Animals are born like finished products. And when an animal comes out, it already has all the skills. Spider, on the day it's born, knows how to make a web. It's finished product. Esav thought he was a finished product. And that's his undoing. A Yid knows that he's not a Shalom. A Yid knows that he has a lot of work to do. Remember I told you that's the idea of the bris. Why does Hashem make a bris? Because he said, just like I created the body imperfect, I created the character imperfect too. And everybody has to work on it. Somebody thinks he doesn't have to work on it, he's flawed. That's why the Gemara says, don't say leich bishalom. Leich lishalom. Bishalom means he's complete. Oh, no. That's only a dead man. So David HaMelech, who said to Avshalom, Leich Bishalom, Nitle. Avshalom got his long hair got caught on the tree. He got stopped, and then they harpooned him. Now that's Mida Keneged Mida, because Avshalom thought he was perfect. That's the Sefer Shalom Rav says. Avshalom is of Shalom. The father, the patron who thought he was Shalom, thought he was Shleimus. You think that you're finished, you get stopped. That's the idea of him being hung in midair and stopped. He's stopped in his tracks. You think that's why a person who wants to live long has to always make plans to do more. There's no reaching a plateau in a person's life. If a person wants to enjoy longevity, he always has to have new projects. He always has to have new plans. He has to always be working on things, working to daven better, working to do more tzedakah, working to make a better marriage, working to make a bigger impact on children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. A person is Esav b'gematria Shalom. A person is Bishalom. A person is Av Shalom. That's no good. That's dangerous. A mensch always has to have plans. So what's next? How could I honor Shabbos every day of the week? How could I find more time to learn? How could I make more of my davening meaningful? What can I have in mind in Moedim? What could I have in mind in Ashiva Shofteinu? When Yaakov Elavi, Yaakov said to his father, Anoichi Esav b'charecha, I am Esav your b'char, Asisi kasher dibarta Eloi. Now, he's lying through his teeth. He's not Esav. He didn't do what Yaakov never told him. I mean, Asisa kasher dibarta Eloi. Yaakov never told him. So, Rashi says that Yaakov very carefully constructed his words that they shouldn't be an open lie. Vayomer Yaakov el Avi, Anoichi, it's I. And Esav b'charecha. Esav is your b'char. Asisi, many times I did kasher dibartu loy. Not this time, but Asisi kasher dibartu. Many times I did. You know, what's all this rearranging of his words, you know? I mean, look, Rivka said it's Hatzalas Klal Yisrael, you got to get the brachas away from Esav, otherwise your descendants are cooked. It's Hatzalas Klal, you're allowed to lie. What's going on? Karen says, even if there's a situation where a person is allowed to lie, you minimize it as much as you can. Why? And here is a very great lesson in all ruchnias. Even if something is allowed, it can rub off on us and cause us to do bad things when it's not allowed. The people that killed those in the city of the Iranidachas, you know, if a city goes astray, you have to kill the people in the city. A city that goes after idolatry, to kill the people in the city. It's a scary thing. So Hashem says, "V'nosam l'cho rachamim v'richamecha." Why? Because from doing such a spree of killing, you can become bloodthirsty. You know, that's one of the problems that they had with the Crusaders. That when the crusade was finished, they didn't know what to do with these people anymore. You have this even nowadays. Veterans come back from long campaigns at war, and they can't get back into civilization again. They're used to killing people. It rubs off on them. It's very hard. It's very hard to reacclimate back into society. So that's why they have to keep on making crusades. They have to get the people away. They don't want to live with these people. Send them away again. Can't keep these people around. Where do we see this? Believe it or not, we see this in the first siman in Shulchan Aruch in a Ramah. Somebody would tell me, I was shocked. The Ramah writes, in Siman Aleph, in Shulchan Aruch, the first page, well, it's actually Amud Beis, of the first page. The Ramah writes, let's say you're doing what's right. People are making fun of you. Right? There's a long line of people washing, and he's careful to wash his whole hand and to dry his hand beforehand. And people will say, hey, what are you doing there, boy? There, boy. So he says, "V'lo," this is the Lashon HaRamah, "V'lo yizbayish mipnei bnei odam ha'maligin olav b'avodas Hashem." Don't be embarrassed before people that are scorning you, insulting you for proper avodas Hashem. There's a girl with a bunch of girls, and she's dressed tzniustik. And they say, look at you. Are you hot? You must be hot, you dress like that. Are you hot? Or, you must be cold. You have to put on so much clothes. They're making fun of her. That's not a Kiddush. We know that's the ABCs of Yiddishkeit. But listen to what the Mishnah Brura says on this halacha in the Ramah. It's amazing, Mishnah Brura. Says the Mishnah Brura, "Va'al kol ponim lo yiskoitei dimah." Don't shepherd with them. What are you making fun of me for being sneerstic? You look like a shegitz. No, lo yiskaitei timan. Why? Mipnei shemidas azus, being bold and brazen and fighting with these people, meguna ma'ayt, is very disgusting. V'kana kinyan benafshay, and if you're going to fight with them, that's going to stick to your soul. Liyos oz afilu shaloi b'makom avidasa, to be bold and to be chutzpahdik and to be brazen, even where it's not called. It's such a fascinating concept. Give you another example. You're in an office, and there's a guy working in your cubicle, and you speak to him about another guy. You say, you see that guy? He's really, really a nasty person. You say, there's no problem of Lashon Hara, it's a guy to another guy. What's the problem? I'm free. I'm not speaking about a yid, and I'm not speaking to a yid. So I have nothing to worry about. It's like legal cheating. Hey, legal cheating. I can speak Lashon Hara from a guy about a guy. Don't do it. Because speaking bad about people will cleave to your soul. And you'll start doing it with you. That's what he's saying. That's what the Chofetz Chaim is saying here. That's why Yaakov, even though he had to lie, he couched it in truthful terms. Anoichi, Eisa b'chayrecha. Asizi many times. Kasher dibarte, like you told me. It's a very big lesson. We don't want such things to cleave to our soul. And by the way, that's why even when you have to get angry at a child, you see the Gedolim always used to say, I'm only getting angry lefanim. Well, it's only a show of anger. What do you mean? Get angry. It's wrong. No, I don't want to get angry because then it sticks to me. I have to tell you another story. And it says, go there until Rivka said, go there until your brother calms down, until his anger leaves him. I don't know if you know people like this. I sadly know one or two people like this. It's a tragedy. People that are so angry that it affects all their relationships. They just lose it. And when they lose it, you can't deal with them. They go berserk. So anyway, it's a good thing if somebody at least realizes this. So there was a man that had this uncontrollable anger. You know what it says in Pirkei Avos is the worst level of noyach lirtza lichais v'kosher lirtzais. Somebody that's easy to get angry and hard to appease. So such a person went to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, not to Reb Chaim, to the Heilige Steipler guy, his father, the Kilos Yaakov, and he told the Steipler that he realizes he's Chayei Amenem Chayim. It says Kolakayis coming to Gehenim Sholtem boy, and Kolakayis Kilo Ovid Avodah Zarah. He realized that he can't stop. So Chaim, the Steipler, Yaakov Kanievsky, Steipler told him, I think I might have something that might help you, but you're going to have to look at me without distraction for 5 minutes. So who would have a problem to look at the Steipler for 5 minutes? So he said, okay. So the Steipler started making faces of anger. One eye up, one eye down. For 5 minutes, the Steipler made faces of anger. That was it. The man testifies that he was never able to get angry again. Because every time he got angry, he started seeing those faces of the stifle. He said, that's the way I look. They say that it could be beneficial to look in the mirror when you get angry. But even, I want to add even more. A husband has to say, or a wife has to say to herself, how could my husband or how could my wife love such a face? That's a big deterrent from being angry. Remember, I told you, Miller used to say that kas is the same letters as eches, poison. It's the poison of the body. So he would say, how many people had their lives shortened by habitual anger? It raises the blood pressure, it does things to the blood sugar, it does things to the heart. There's a famous klaf that's discussed. There was a parchment found from Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, where Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid writes that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov all knew each other for 15 years. And they learned Torah together for 15 years, 15 hours a day. So this is a famous klaf that was uncovered from the Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, 14th century, Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, in Regensburg. And the Oitzer Aplois asks the obvious question. It's all simple arithmetic. What's a simple arithmetic? If Avram was 100 when he had Yitzchak, and Yitzchak was 60 when he had Yaakov, and Avram lived till 175, if he learned with Yaakov for 15 years, he had to learn with Yaakov from the day he was born. Because Yitzchak had Yaakov when Avram was 160. So if he learned with him for 15 years, he had to learn with him in the crib, in the bassinet. What's pshat? So the Oitzer Aployes brings down a Medrash Pliya. It's no surprise, because the Medrash says on the day that Moshe Rabbeinu was born, 3 months before they hit him, he said, don't worry, you don't have to mal me, because I was noiled mal on the day that he was born. So we see that certain great people were already able to speak on the day they were born. And the raya is, it makes sense, because Yaakov, it says, that Yaakov ran when he saw a shul, he ran out to go out. So everybody asked, what are you running out? There's a malach. It's a famous terutzim. He wanted to get out because he couldn't stand being near Esav. Better to get out than to be near Esav. Others say that he wanted Torah with Amelis, and here he was being spoon-fed. Others say he wanted Torah Amanas La'asais. But if he would have to wait many years in order to be able to learn, what's he running out? The answer is he was able to learn that day. Okay, that's the famous Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid. But the Chidah has a spin-off on this. He says, you see that the Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid said they learned 15 hours a day. You know, that's Rebbe Yoshev type numbers, right? So he said the cheshbon is that 9 hours are needed for sleep, food, and bodily functions. The other 15 are for Torah and Tefillah. And he says that's pshat kol neshama tahalal ka. Every neshama praises ka. Ka is 15. The Torah and the Tefillah is 15. I wanted to add that's pshat ki b'ka Hashem tzurei lamed. With Ka, Hashem created the two worlds. Ka is the 15 hours of Torah and Tefillah. That's this world and the next world. And that's the next world. Torah is Nitzchias and the Shiras to Hashem. Now on this, the Chidah says that's why. Can I have a sitter? He says that's why. Thank you. That's why you find based on these 15 hours, the Chidah says, that's why you have 15 steps in the Azara. That's why you have 15 Shir Malises, based on this 15. He goes on to say, that's why there are 15 praises in Yishtab. Kel, Melech, Gadol, Umulal, Bat Tishbachos. No, I'm sorry. Shir says, thank you. Shir, Ushavacha, Halal, Vizimra, Oiz, Umemshala, Netzach, Gedula, Gevura, Tila, V'Seferes, Kedusha, Umalchus, Brachos, Voidas. It's 15. Now he says, also, I'm going to add, that that's why you find in Kriya Shema in the morning, by V'Yatziv V'Nochim, there are 15. Look at Kriya Shema. What do we say? V'Yatziv, V'Nochan, V'Kayam, V'Yashar, V'Neman, V'Ohod, V'Chaviv, V'Nechmad, V'Noyim, V'Naira, V'Adir, U'Mesukan, U'Mekubal, V'Toiv, V'Yafa. It's 15. Same thing is true by benching. L'chein, U'Lechesed, U'Rachamim, right? L'Revach, Hatzala, V'Atzlacha, Bracha, Yeshua, Nechama, Parnasa, V'Rachamim, V'Chayim, V'Shalom, V'Chol Toiv. No, I missed one. L'chein, L'chesed, L'Rachamim, L'Revach, Hatzala, V'Atzlacha, Bracha, Yeshua, Nechama, Parnasa, V'Chalkala, V'Rachamim, V'Chayim, V'Shalom, V'Chol Toiv. 15. And because it's all based on the 15 hours of Ruchnias in the ultimate person in the world, right? The ultimate person is doing 15 hours of Ruchnias. That's the Kol HaNeshama Ta'alel Ka. That's the ultimate person. And to be Zaycha one time to be able to do this. Rabbi say a few things. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. Please let people know about the shir so that more people can come. This is a nice island, but I would like that we should pack the rafters. Right? So people don't know about this year. So tell people about this year. Also, the Mishnah Yomis just started Avodah Zarah. It's a great time to start Mishnah Yomis. After Avodah Zarah, we learn Huriyas, then Avos. So it's a great time to start. It's a free service, less than 15 minutes a day. Tomorrow's Mishnah Yomis is only 6 minutes. 718-906-6471. It's a free service, 718-906-6471. The dedications opportunity for this year, for those year. Also, we have tonight, again, I brought the pocket-sized power benching. It says over 300 pages, just like the regular power benching. It's available here. Regular power benching size and challenging time is available tonight as well. There is a CD here on Toldos from 1991. Or 1992, 21 years ago. It's a little bit of a different share. Is also last week's CD if anybody wants it. And tonight's will be available shortly. Thank you for coming. Ma'ariv will be at 11:15. From Chananya ben Akasha, Amarat HaKadosh Baruch Hu, L'Zakaises Yisrael, L'Fikach V'Lem Torah Mitzvahs, Shenem Adinai Chofetz, L'Man Tzidka, Yadul Torah V'Yadif.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.